All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to our May 23rd, 2024 Saanich Peninsula Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. Today we're meeting in the town of Sydney on the traditional lands of the Saanich speaking peoples. And as we're conducting our business today, once again, just that we be mindful and thoughtful of the people that have been the custodians of this land that we have the privilege of calling home for millennia, and that we are respectful of the work that they've done in the past, and that we continue to be good stewards alongside them in our community as we go forward. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Any changes or amendments, additions for the agenda today?
So that one thing that I'll just talk about that in my council updates.
Okay. Going once, going twice. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda then, please? Charlene, seconded. Lee, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Approval of the minutes. So the SPAAC minutes from March 28, 2024 were attached to the agenda. Recommendation is that minutes be approved. So Councillor Di-Battista, seconded Charlene, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is accessibility plan. Staff training, awareness, and communications and website memo from North Saanich. Yes, Dawn, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Dawn.
So we just presented the memo indicating that we received our $25,000 grant. That grant is being split up into 10,000 for awareness training for staff, communications training 5,000 for that, and 5,000 for the website. And we're just looking for guidance from this committee on moving forward.
Is there something in particular that you're looking for at this time, or are you going to be coming back, do you think?
Right now we're looking at upgrading the website, and we're looking at auto captioning for videos. So I'm looking at a couple of software options. If anybody has any input or any options out there, I would love to hear from you.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, I'll look to Sydney staff, because I know we just did our sort of a revised website, and I know our communications manager was looking at some different types of things to make our website more accessible. Whether there might be any lessons or info to share from that.
I don't know the details of it.
Okay.
Laura and Krista were actually.
Okay.
Exactly what.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I knew they were looking around at different resources and tools. So that, yeah, I don't know if you're in communication with our communications manager.
No, I'm not, but I
Laura
can be. Yeah.
Laura Jefferson would be the.
Yeah, I know Laura.
I know we built as much accessibility features and for redesign as possible, and
Yeah.
we're looking at.
Yeah, so Laura might have done some research already. That you could happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't think we have any representation from the deaf or hard of hearing community on our committee right now.
Oh,
Do we? No. And that's an area of expertise with lived experience that would be really good to be able to get back on the committee. Because like for me, I know most of us know physical accessibility and our own little areas, but that's an area that a lot of us, I think, don't really know much about.
I actually have a friend who's hard of hearing. I could
Yep.
maybe send her your way. Maybe she would like to sit on the board. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or at least be a resource for us.
Yeah.
There's also, I thought, I think it was a provincial government website that had listed all types of resources available in regards to accessibility. I'll try and find that again.
Are you thinking the BC Accessibility Hub?
I don't know if it was the BC Accessibility. It might have been, but I remember it was on a government website, because I was just kind of surprised that, whoa, they've actually got something good on here.
Might be something on the Accessibility Secretariat website as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Jen,
We're having our accessibility fair on June 1st, and I believe we have someone coming from Island Deaf in the front of hearing as well, who may be a good source.
Okay.
What's happening on the first? An accessibility fair expo, and I'm gonna chat about it.
Okay.
Actual development.
Rachel would like.
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Hi everybody. I think the reason why we wanted to come to the committee is because we wanted to look at a more peninsula focus on how we're going to move forward as opposed to perhaps a provincial focus. So we're really more community focus minded, and that's why we think you and your team here on SPAAC are an excellent resource. And if we go back to how we did our accessibility plans, we may have 3 plans in place, but they are all fluent with each other, so they all are overlap. So we were hoping to get from your knowledge of community involvement and why you sit on SPAAC as to, from your different lenses, as to, is there anything that really sticks out for any of you that really here in North Saanich that would either help North Saanich and our other neighboring municipalities, where we really need to start focusing, because we have this funding. We're very lucky to have the funding, and we don't just want to check a box. We want to be able to really benefit the community.
Thank you, Rachel.
so,
Oh, sorry, Catherine?
yeah, no, go
Just with respect to the website, CRD and Panorama are doing a website project redesign right now that's going to include things like writing in plain language, captioning for photos and videos. So if there's any resources that we can provide from that process, we share them.
Thank you, Catherine. And actually, before we go any further, how can you guys hear us online all right?
Yeah, perfectly well.
Okay, there's a new microphone here, so just I forgot, Anna asked me to ask everyone to just make sure that you speak up and clearly today. Terry, you had something to ask?
So Rachel, were you wanting things from the feedback from the committee today, or at some point in the future?
Thank you, Councillor O'Keeffe. I think that this is just a great starting point, just to plant a seed. Our wonderful comms team, and that's why Dawn is there today, is really going to be leading this for us. So if anybody has any ideas or starting points today, that we'll gratefully accept those. However, please have a think about it. You can always email us directly with any thoughts, or we can bring it back as well to a future meeting. But I think the collaboration should continue, for our specific communities as well. So.
Okay, so just what I gather from your comments is you're looking less maybe at the technical aspect, well, sort of, but more wanting to hear the personal experience of SPAAC members. Like, because I'm a blind person, for example, I can't access my tax notice or that something like that. Or it would be nice, like when we were talking about the central, I think it was Central Saanich Parks Plan, we talked about, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a little verbal descriptor of what is at certain parks, so when they go there, they know what to expect, or videos, so a person with a physical disabilities can look and see what the terrain is like at the park. Is that kind of? Yeah,
that we learned a lot from the Jubilee Park experience with the surfaces and the input that this committee provided to North Saanich with regards to the Jubilee Park play structure. We also learned a lot when we were hosting this committee in North Saanich. Vanessa taught us a lot about agenda preparation and how we should be doing things. So it's that lens that while we can, certainly go and look at websites, but it's those lenses and the immense experience that we get from this committee that really makes a difference in the community. So that's why we're coming to you for that expertise. David has shared many things. I say years now because it has been 2 years with different experiences that he's had, and I think those experiences are invaluable. So you may not think of anything right off the bat right now, but we're going to be thinking more community based focus stuff for us for our training and education when it comes to accessibility.
Thank you, Rachel. Emily, the Central Saanich was working on the awareness training as well. Was that with the Disability Resource Center?
It was, yeah. So we had our first session with, I believe, approximately 20 staff a number of months ago. We'll be doing another one in the fall as well. It was really successful. So we basically are rolling it into our annual spring and fall training with staff. I believe we shared it with North Saanich and Sydney, but I can follow up with our HR team as well. We received a similar $25,000 funding, so we split it up similarly with communications training, and we're finding that we're going through our website systematically and updating captions and just descriptions, so it's not relying on visual cues is a big one. We do have 2 staff who are hard of hearing, so we are working with them on touring council chambers in the greater region to see what other tools are being used that are useful for them to attend meetings, so that the public has access to that. We're currently upgrading from Zoom to Teams for our meetings, so that those who want to have captioning, we find that the captioning on Teams seems to be a little more intuitive, so that we have live captioning for those staff in the meetings, and are training our members of council as well to allow a greater pause. We tend to speak very quickly and expect answers very quickly, so that when there is a pause, that is often because the captions are catching up and those individuals are reading what's happening in the meeting. So I think, and similarly, we've been connecting with the Capital Regional District on their website upgrade, and are looking for to implement some of the improvements that they're looking to do as well.
Thank you, Emily. Any other questions or comments for Dawn? Okay, do we need a motion to receive for information or anything, or? Don't think so? Okay.
And so, well, actually, just
sorry.
before we leave that, so if community members have thoughts that they want to pass along, what's the email that they should send those to?
Corporate services at northsaanich.ca.
Okay, thanks.
Right on, thank you very much.
Sorry, we also have our public input portion on our website as well, where we can receive feedback on accessibility as well, if that's another channel that people can send their information to.
Thank you, Rachel. Oh, did you have something else, Don? No, okay. Item 6 is next, council referrals, design of BC Hydro EV charging stations referred by Sydney Council on January 22nd, and there's a updated report dated May 23rd. Is that
I believe Andrew is here to talk about that.
okay?
Yes, thank you. Andrew Hissett, Sydney, Director of Finance, co-writer of this report. So we have been in contact with BC Hydro, and accessibility is very much on their radar. They're doing everything they can within the standards they're working under, and working with manufacturers on constantly improving accessibility features. So as of now, they're doing whatever is possible to make them as accessible as they possibly can, and should manufacturing standards change, I'm sure they will consider upgrades as they do.
Thank you, Andrew. Questions, comments, David?
Yeah, just one comment, and somewhat familiar with the US models and studies in that. The one thing I think, just interpreting the plan there, is that it's reasonably remote from the main entrance to Mary Winspear. One of the major issues is the location of the accessible plugins being almost adjacent to the ramps leading into the facility. So my quick comment is that consideration for relocation of that would be fairly important to anybody that requires drop-off, pickup, accessibility, plug-in situations for tenants that might be assisting or the individuals themselves. And that's a prime requirement, actually, I think, within the current US standards.
This parking is not on the Mary Winster side of the parking lot, right? It's actually just outside just first approach row parking adjacent to the fire hall here. So it's on the far side.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, what is that the best location for the individuals that are coming to Sydney on average? Are they coming? I'm probably not the one to speak to it, but it seemed remote from my perspective in terms of it. I could see a number of people using the Winspear Center. Perhaps that's a more logical location for those by use and proximity. I don't know whether this location is the most appropriate for the individuals that would be using it from an accessibility perspective. I'm not saying all of them, speaking now to the ones that are accessible. I know Charlene may have better comments than I do.
I don't want to speak for the town, but my thought would be this is sort of a starting point for the town of Sydney. This is an opportunity that's arisen and is going to put in the bank of EV charging locations. And with the facilities and infrastructure that's in place, this is the place to start for the, and this is like the day-long parking for town of Sydney, people going to work in that. But there'll be other opportunities down the road to add additional EV parking with new developments and whatnot down the road. Would that be an accurate?
Yes, that's a good summary, thank you. This is part of a provincial, national, regional network working with CID and BC Hydro. It's not meant to serve the Winspear Center itself or any particular establishment within the town of Sydney, but just part of the regional network that allows people to travel via electric vehicles.
Is that?
Yeah, that's helpful. And I am assuming that the support for the parking stalls with respect to accessibility to ramps and so forth would be there as well, and availability of it's part of the network that supports people that might be in wheelchairs or whatever is immediately adjacent, and someone picking up whatever change necessary to support it.
We will certainly be monitoring the use and any requests that come forward for improvement. And we always do it. It's not exactly town infrastructure. It's going to belong to BC Hydro, and we'll work with them too.
I was thinking more of the walkways and pathways that support the individuals to move.
There's not a lot of sidewalks within the parking lot itself, but I was noting today because I took a drive through just on my way here just to get the lay of the land a little better. And there's lots of curtain wraps and that at the ends of sidewalks, at the sides of sidewalks. So where there are sidewalks, there seems to be good access from that perspective. Yeah, there might be a few curb wraps that would make things even better, but most of them seem to already have most of that in place. Lee.
I didn't notice, and I can't really tell from the diagram here about any curb obstructions at the front of the vehicles.
That's part of the design specs that come from the US Access Board. There's actually a really good document. I should probably have shared it with the whole committee here. That's come out from the US Access Board last year. That provides some guidance, and then it shows pictures, things like a curb in front with a red X through it. You don't want that. And BC Hydro, so far from what I've seen, where they have started to work the accessibility into the EV charging, they do have a level access to the charger itself. And as Andrew said, there's challenges with the actual manufacturers at this point with reach and being able to get the actual physical chargers, just what's available on the market. But yeah, BC Hydro, again, from what I've seen, has been doing that with their And not just the ones that are designated for acceptability either, but there are other ones as well, trying to keep them as accessible as possible. Any other questions or comments?
It's just, so, so there's 13 altogether, and one will be designated as a accessible. Or,
There's two there, actually.
okay, so two, oh, so two will be,
Two in the center.
okay. Yeah, I couldn't, okay, yeah, I couldn't see, I don't know. Yeah, it's tiny picture. And so there will be one, so they'll both be, so there'll be one that will be a fast charger and one just one a fast.
One level, two and one.
Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds good, I think.
Charlie?
So my question, and I don't know whether it's just looking at the designs that with the two that look like they're the accessible ones. And again, I'm thinking of myself and people with side wrap van, the way this is set up, unless there's access from the front of the car, there wouldn't be access to the side of the vehicle for a wheelchair to charge. The way this one is set up on the, and I don't know if I'm just not understanding the setup of it, is I'm looking, I come out on the hatched area, but it looks like the charger is on the other side. And so I wouldn't, somebody in a chair wouldn't be able to access that. Do you see what I'm?
No, they're designed the way they are with the aisle in the middle, with an eye on making them accessible. That will be included.
It's kind of going on blind, on hopefully faith.
Yeah. It's a concept.
Yeah.
Design at this
Yeah.
point.
So, but is that a recommendation that you're wanting to make then, or a consideration for them? That when they, so that when they,
So we are following standards, we don't necessarily need another recommendation.
oh, okay.
Any other questions or comments? One question, comment, something to put your minds to. US Access Board does not recommend generally that EV charging spaces be identified for the sole use of people with disabilities. Unless there's a in the US, it's a state government requirement to have a certain number designated, but then they also recommend that they don't be included in the accessible vehicle count for a site. What they do recommend is signage that says accessible, use last, or things like that. And again, I'm happy, I should share this out. This is the updated design recommendations from the US Access Board dated from last year. And that I think would look at a lot of the concerns that Charlene's raised, and that it's just things that are within the standards, but maybe you didn't think of, and this is just an updated look at it as EVs become more common. And did you have you seen this document, or? Yeah, I'll give you my copy.
Yes, so the use last concept is definitely good consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will make sure that it's signed appropriately, but we want to obviously not have constant enforcement. When there is an issue, we'll try and deal with it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that one? No. Okay, we'll move on to council updates, including tracking sheets. Well, you want to do the councillor updates first? Okay. Terry, start with Town of Sydney.
Sure. Just a few little updates on things that Brethour Park, which the committee provided input on, is well underway. If you've driven by there, it's the playground equipment is up, and it's expected to open this summer, so we can look forward to that. And thanks to the committee for their input on that one. Also, waterfront washrooms are well underway as well with the changing places, which will be in there again with input from this committee, and us to be open this summer too, I think. Yeah.
Should be, open around the end of June.
Oh, okay, great, good. And another thing, sidewalks along Galloway, so are now in place, which is in terms of accessibility for people walking and being more safe is another good thing that the town has been doing. So lots of improvements to improve accessibility in the town. The other thing I was going to mention is the accessibility directorate at the province of BC is doing another round of community engagement about accessibility. And so they are, there's going to be some public engagement throughout the spring and summer. So they're looking for people to provide input into that. If you're interested, I'll send an email out, or maybe we can include it in the minutes for anybody who's interested to participate in that. There's an online thing that you can go to identify any sort of issues that you've had in with accessibility in your community, how that's impacted you. And there's also an opportunity for perhaps community engagement sessions. So I'll keep you posted as things evolve on that. Lee, I was thinking about you because one of the so part of the focus is that they're gathering feedback on is persons who work with disabilities who are working, and barriers we need to remove for them, but also barriers for people who want to engage with businesses, like being able to open the door to get in. So that might be something you might want to comment on as well. So
Sure.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, the first two standards that the province is working on are accessible employment standards and accessible service delivery standards.
Right.
So that's, I think, what this engagement process is.
Yeah.
Right on, thank you. Councillor De Batista.
I got nothing.
Nothing?
Sorry.
Okay. And Councillor King. Good to see you, Zeb.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say, I feel a little bit like a fly on the wall watching this, and I am. I think the way I'm positioned, I'm actually on the wall, looking down on so yeah, I think Councillor Gorman, Ms. Gorman can probably fill in on a lot of the work that is going on already has, I think, to some degree, and I know Chair Willows is from Central Saanich, and so you're much more familiar with this committee than I am. I'm here because Councillor Newton can't be here, and I'm the alternate. So I'm getting an insight into the meeting that you're having. I have a course that I'm taking, so I'm also rushing off to that. Well, via Zoom, but anyway. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to be part of it and get a sense of what you're discussing and these important topics. So. I don't really have much else to add in terms of knowledge. Maybe others can contribute that.
Emily, did you have anything you wanted to add for that?
I can just spend that this committee would give some initial advice on the Parks and Trails Master Plan that Central Saanich is working on right now. So the first phase of that work is complete, and we expect some recommendations this fall, and I'll advocate that those recommendations be referred back to SPAAC to provide additional advice now that there's something tangible that we can expect and provide feedback on. I did also hear that there was reference to the Jubilee Park and the Brethour Park playground. So the district is working on a splash pad as well. Working on, I'm sorry, David probably correct me, but there are accessibility standards that were included in the design of that. So once I have the details of that, we'll include it. If not in our next meeting, then perhaps just some information on the installation of that as well. Because that was directed to be done at the end of the summer. And And those are the ones that I can think of as well. We are also making notes as we go along the charging stations. We're selecting some spots in the district as well for additional charging spaces. So I'll pass on to the team that's picking those locations to keep the accessibility of those in mind. It's something I had never considered, and that's one of the benefits of sitting at this table is seeing those ideas put together and the opportunity to just have that thought in mind when we're implementing these programs. So council, I don't know if Councillor King knows this or not yet, but in the next 2 meetings, there's a consideration of encouraging some additional accessibility features at Island View Beach as well coming to council. So once that advocacy motion is passed, I will make sure to share that in the council referrals.
Thank you. I'm not sure, Marnie Esri, who chaired ACTI, I'm not sure they're still around as ACTI, which is the West Shore Committee, but they did a lot of work with CRD as well. There might be if you needed another letter of support, she might be able to put something together to help that as well. You bet. And so feel free to email me. I can try to dig into that for you if you like. Any other questions, comments on council updates? Okay, the tracking sheet. Anyone have any questions or comments on that? It's attached to the minutes. I don't think there's any significant updates on that.
Nothing really, that's all.
Yeah, okay. No, nothing there. Then we'll move on to other items. 8A, Victoria Airport Authority's Accessibility Plan Public Forum. A report from Charlene and Dave.
Dave and I, it was through Zoom, there was quite a few people that were involved in that. I took away from it that, you know, the airport authority is actually very proactive in their accessibility and what they're doing. I felt a lot of the meeting was based on people saying kudos to you guys for what you're doing, because they're looking at accessibility through a lens on everything that they're doing. It's not an afterthought. They're being proactive about it. I think, you know, there's lots of what I took away from it is the airport authority looks after the airport. They don't look after Air Canada or whoever, where a lot of the issues in accessible travel lie. And, you know, how do the airlines travel? How do the hotels want you travel? So the airport itself, to me, seems like they are very, very, they're embracing accessibility and making it a priority, not an afterthought. And I found that very encouraging. To me, that's what we should be doing is looking, instead of saying, oh, we're going to do this, and if we have to fix it later, we'll fix it later. They're being proactive in that. And I think I took great heart in that. You know, to see that going forward is something, and I did express to them that, you know, I've been doing this for 40 years and the changes in the airport, there used to be, when I traveled, the pilot would put me on the plane. He'd just pick me up and carry me onto the plane. Can't do that anymore. So, and then, as somebody did mention to me that it's probably our way to look less back then too. So again, all the changes that they've got in place to protect everybody within their movement and the changes. And again, I'm one who has had my wheelchair left behind and received it the next day with the sorry for losing your luggage. I've had my wheelchair damaged, which even damage of like half an inch can really make wheeling difficult. So I took great hope in the airport itself that it's doing well. It's won awards. I think if we can use their willingness to all this to then try to say, hey, hotels, hey, the town, hey, everybody, let's make everybody do this so that we're all, not only are we going to be able to fly into an accessible airport, but once we get there, we've got all sorts of accessible things that we can do once we get there and stay. So I felt very positive about it.
Yeah, I think it was a positive experience for people. It was more of an introduction, excuse me, into what they've done. A bit of a presentation from their facilitators there and so forth. From some past experience on it, is working in the airport, working on projects in the airport, a little bit like herding cats, because they have to be involved with everyone. And there's a myriad of government organizations, the airlines, the support people, the transportation groups and so forth. And they all do interface, and they're required to a certain degree, but they all have their own regulations and standards and so forth. There's opportunities to negotiate as they go. And it sounded as if they're doing the best they can to do that, and they'll hit stone walls as they will in any case. I hope, and it's just a comment, that the interface with the municipalities and thereby the councils is being undertaken, that they would be making presentations, let's say, or opportunities for the councils to review it, which would allow the councils an opportunity for it to come to us. Because I think that would be a wise thing to do as an interface situation. It probably isn't a requirement in their part, but I think there is an interface that does occur with councils. And out of a courtesy, if nothing else, and that would give council an opportunity to identify whether they want any groups like ourselves to be involved.
Councillor O'Keeffe?
Yeah, no, well, I presume that the reason that this came here, I don't know if it came to the municipalities first and then I guess it just came directly. So I'm just wondering, were you thinking that there would be, what other sorts of things would you anticipate? Like if they went to the municipalities and the municipalities referred to SPAAC again, I'm just wondering what additional information would you be expecting or be wanting to provide that you didn't already get or did you get an opportunity to provide that?
Well, there wasn't the opportunity. It was brief. It wasn't, they weren't expecting that kind of detail. It wasn't a long process at all. It was very short. It was well presented, well listened to. There wasn't a huge amount of interaction or dialogue that way at all. There isn't typically a requirement to do a great deal of community interface on those projects at all. And it's limited usually to the extent that excludes transportation to and from the airport, for instance. And a lot of the disability issues that come up are related to people that are having great strife getting there and getting home, worrying about the time schedules and so forth, not being able to get a handy dart, not being able to get taxis, not being able to get there on the schedule and then left on their own to find their way through. So it kind of picks you up at the door to some degree and takes you to the door that goes into the security. And after that, it's a matter of what they have some control on after it goes beyond that point. Because usually everybody goes in a panic to the airport, right? I mean, it's just the prime directive for anybody's mind. It's just very, very tense going there. Once you're through security and so forth, then you can relax a bit. So up until that point, it's exacerbated by people that might not move as quickly as they can, or if something's delaying them, that they're worried about the fact that it's boarding already. And, you know, I mean, there'll be a lot of comment that way. Not that they will or can deal with it all, but I'm just seeing a bit of a gap maybe that might want to be filled.
Okay, so it sounds like it was more like here's what we're already doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not too much opportunity for you guys to actually provide input in terms of suggestions or on specific aspects of the plans.
No, I don't think it was a forum for that.
Okay.
I think it was very much an introduction and you know, kind of a pat in the back thing, which everybody was agreeing to do. And yeah.
Well, to that point though, I reached out to the airport a few times about different things. I think Ollie's been incredibly receptive. And to sort of the biggest one for me was they've got a Changing Places washroom airside there. You know, you look at the airports in Canada that have those facilities, you got Toronto Pearson, Montreal Trudeau, and Vancouver International in the international departures. We're the only small airport that's got one, you know, and I brought it to them when they were preparing to do their renovations there. And they said, hey, that's a great idea, and they ran with it. So yeah, they've been incredibly receptive to feedback like that. So yeah, it'd be great to see if there was a forum where, because we've got interfaces as well, like the flight path, for example, where you've got an active transportation network that's meeting with the municipal active transportation network. And just like we're doing with our municipalities, finding ways to make all this sort of cohesive and seamless. Yeah, I really like that point, Dave. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Dave and Shirley on that one? Okay, we'll move on to the Disability Alliance BC meeting that Lee York and I attended. Did you want to speak to that, Lee, or?
No, I was hoping you would have.
Okay. Yeah, so this was a forum that was put together by Disability Alliance BC, and really, to sum it up really shortly, I think it was kind of like a gap analysis, looking to see where there's resources missing for organizations, prescribed organizations, to help them achieve the requirements under the Accessible BC regulations. And Lee and I've talked about this briefly afterwards, and one of our biggest takeaways is we are awesome. Central Saanich, North Saanich, Sydney, you know, we've got a terms of reference with our committee that allows us to actually have action, and we've got communities that listen to us, and when they can't do something, you come back and explain to us why we can't do it, you know, and it's not just being brushed off. This is a committee that's actually making an impact with our municipalities, and that and so many others are struggling so hard to get where we are. So
that was a good summary. Yeah, I went there to try and learn something from others, and I felt like we were teaching others how to do it. It's pretty amazing. So that was the biggest takeaway from me, that we're so far ahead. Many others are still struggling with interpersonal relationships on the committee, for example. That's how far back they are. Yeah. So I think we should, not to pat ourselves in the back a little bit, but carry on doing what we're doing and just making it better.
Yeah. And with that, also a big thank you to everyone that's been involved, members, staff. You know, it takes all of us to make this happen, and sometimes we get our knickers in a bit of a knot. I know I've been guilty of that at times, and my apologies. But you know, we're making good progress. So we need to, if you're ever feeling down about things, just take a step back and take that 30,000-foot view. Recognize we are doing good.
So just to refresh my memory, maybe others, so was this the meeting where they had people from other accessibility?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and was this like throughout the province, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There was
mostly Vancouver Island.
It was, yeah, the meeting itself, the actual physical meeting was based in the Comox Valley. And there was 2 sessions, so that was, David and I attended the same session. So it was mostly Vancouver Island, Lower Mainland committees. But I think there was a couple from further afield, like in the interior. Yeah.
They were all like municipal committees or general public sector?
Yeah, they were all prescribed organizations, so the public bodies under the regulations. Any other questions or comments? Councillor O'Keeffe? No? Okay, sorry, I'll go back. And then Access Awareness Day, Jennifer.
Yeah, so once again, we're going to have an Access Awareness Day event at Shoal Center on June 1st. And it is a great opportunity. What we're trying to achieve through this is to just bring some information for people living with disability, but also really good information for people that aren't, just to try and engage everyone to help create a more accessible and inclusive community. So we have some really good speakers lined up. The event will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have local artist Les Chan, who's really great and fun to listen to. He's a gentleman that's had a brain injury at a young age and has not let that stop him do anything. We have rescue sent dog trainer and Paralympian Jessica Tuomela. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And Elder Randy Fred, who's a visually impaired lawn bowler. He's coming from Nanaimo. So we have a lot of different people coming to speak and just share stories and hopefully inspire and just engage the community about to show everybody a little bit about how it is living with accessibility and what you can do. We have a panel of people. Charlene is going to be on the panel, and that theme is going to be about policy and the impact of policy, the living impact of policy. And then we have about, I think, over 20 vendors coming from across Victoria, Disability Resource Center, Can Assist from UVic, which is they make different things that can help people after they've had disability. So adaptations for helping people cut food and different things like that, but probably bigger scale. They're really quite interesting. We've had them there before. They're quite interesting to see what they've done. We have some service dog puppies coming as well. So 4-hour event should be amazing. What we're asking for is just to spread the word in the community. I think we've done a really good job with that this year with the social media. It's really helped us to be able to just, every single vendor that we ask, even if they're not coming, could you please, share this day and this event with your social media communities. So we're hoping to get a really good turnout. So I can send you the information if you haven't received it. I can certainly send you the information, the poster, and the social media, so that we can really start getting the word out about the day.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and also we think that there's a rep coming from Victoria Airport as well, just to talk about what they've done and their accessibility implementations in the airport.
Right on, thank you. Any questions or comments for Jennifer? Right on, thank you very much, Jennifer. Item 9 then, public feedback. Sydney feedback is about a request for a dog park. And what is it? Jen responded on that. I don't guess we don't really talk about these that much.
No, I mean, I think the reason for the feedback coming to SPAAC is for SPAAC to kind of get an awareness of the things, the accessibility issues that are coming up in the community. And if there's, seems to be a trend, or if SPAAC members see a possible solution, or maybe might want to make a recommendation on policy or something like that, then there's that opportunity. I mean, in this case, I can, well, I'll let David speak first.
I'll stumble in here. I just had a question. Just in any case, I understand the problem in finding appropriate land within a community to do this, and on a scale like that. But I have seen, and it's just interesting that it is occurring, across from Talista, by Brethour Park, there is an enclosed court, and it's used in the mornings when nobody's using it for people that want to exercise their dogs. And there's grass outside and so forth, and the number of people I've seen leads me to believe that it's not interfering with normal activities at all, and that it maybe provides communities a temporary opportunity to allow people, maybe promote it, maybe not, as an option. I know there's legal ramifications probably and other things, but I just wanted to mention that I've seen that happen, and it's a space that exists, it's not being used, and it's protected based on the comment that this person had.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor O'Keeffe.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that, council spent a lot of time on that, and staff spent a lot of time on the dog park issue. I'm not exactly sure of the space you're referring to, but I seem to recall having complaints recently about that area, about people using that as a sort of off-leash area for their dogs. And so local residents were complaining about that and asked that we follow up on that. And I think the response they got, the residents got from that was, yes, it's not, they're not allowed to be doing that, but it's hard for us to enforce. So it's not likely to be something that we would say, yeah, here, go and use the space for your dog. So it's unfortunate, but with Sydney having such a small footprint, it's hard to find space that's not in close proximity to people's residences that don't want to be disturbed by, you know, dogs barking all day. So there are no plans, I don't believe, for dog park in Sydney.
One thought that there's such a myriad of things with municipal planning in that, but something to sort of tuck away in the back of our minds as communities are developing, and that especially with the way that we see housing policy going with provincial legislation, and that we're going to see more and more people living in multifamily buildings with less and less of a yard. And we're trying to get people out of cars. We're trying to get them on the street and walking. And so there's going to be, I would see, a higher demand for things like a small local off-leash dog park that can be properly maintained and not end up in muddy ground and all that. But just again, thinking of the facilities and accessibility and proximity and all that. Just another layer to add into the planning. Any other questions or comments on that one? Okay, for Central Saanich, I raised a question about the Bill C-44, or I can't remember, whatever the bill was, the provincial housing legislation.
Yeah.
Because there's been two changes recently, as well as now Central Saanich has housing targets as well. They've been added to that list. And just how we're going to work accessibility into that. We've been lucky. We've had developers that have come to the municipalities referred to this committee. And the committees have the opportunity to provide feedback, and the developers have been very receptive. We've got a great team right now. I hope that it continues to be that way, but down the road, as people change in that, my concern in particular was, and I didn't articulate it very well, I don't think, is as people change and that sort of corporate memory is lost, and that just making sure that there's a way to ensure that this continues the good work that we're doing. And Emily did respond and pointed out to me as well that the accessibility is required for the common areas of multifamilies, and there is improved requirements for adaptability in a certain number of units under the building code. And building code is still a minimum standard. That's what most developers build to until it's brought to their attention. But so that's where we're at for now.
David, can I just add something to that as well? I did want to say that all municipalities are implementing Bill 44 right now, and the District of Central Saanich before council. It's come once before. It'll probably come every single meeting for the next 3 months if I had to guess. But one of the things that Central Saanich has done is proposed, and you saw me texting. I was trying to confirm with our director of planning. The density that's required is somewhat up to the municipality to determine. So there is some that's being implemented that's required, and it's kind of being thought of as 4 units. But I'm gonna try and get this right. In residential corridor zones, which is close to transit and close to villages and services, our planning staff has put forward, and council is in the process of doing the bylaw readings to promote that developers would get 1 additional unit if it was focused on accessible units. So the wording is the maximum housing density may be increased by 1 additional dwelling unit where the dwelling is designed, construction, and maintained by covenant as fully accessible. So that's one thing that I was really pleased to see that our planning department had put forward. Again, it's still going through the process. There's lots of changes in our particular one, but that is, it was kind of buried in there as just one of the things that the Central Saanich, in trying to customize Bill 44 as best they could, was in there. So
I love the creativity. Awesome, thank you. That's that's pat on your back for that one.
I think that to me is absolutely excellent, because we are running into people that, even though there are some adaptable units, they are not accessible. And if you're a renter, you don't have that money to make it accessible. Vanessa brought to my attention a fellow who is in in an adaptable unit, can't access his fridge. He's in a wheelchair, but his fridge can't open.
Yeah.
So the fact that as communities, we're starting to look at, yes, there is a need for accessible as well, because there's, as we all know, we just have to go in Sydney and we see how many people are in scooters, wheelchairs and walkers. And so kudos to Central Saanich for that. That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Emily. And if there's, I don't know how you guys are going to look at what means, what does accessible mean, but
yeah, and I think that's still to be determined, and we do have a meeting with our planning department to figure out, you know, I think all I'm looking for is a planner, the kind of cost at municipalities to implement. So I think some of it is getting it onto paper and then working out, you know, what the nuances of that. And so I will definitely offer up SPAAC if they feel that they need that standard set. It's just basically at the very beginning stages right now. But as I was reviewing, I was just so pleased to see that and focus on corridor transits where there will be, you know, hopefully other accessibility means as well. So
awesome. Thank you very much. The other item was an accessible parking fee. It seems an ongoing issue. People come in, the line painters come in, paint some lines, and they don't follow the municipal bylaws. Kudos to Central Saanich. You guys are on top of that before it even comes to you. So, yeah, I don't know how we get the word out there on that, but if there's a way to sort of front end that down the road, it would be great if just a resource of one page or something. I don't know.
yeah, that's a great point for new businesses. That there's one in particular that was brought to our attention that had some additional concerns. So we are working through that right now. I will definitely bring it up to our bylaw department. They're working on I guess we'd call it a public campaign calendar moving forward in terms of what do we want to promote. You know, you think about the snow, and in the winter try to promote people to clear the snow in front of maybe their house and their neighbors as well, but then doing those kind of communication campaigns throughout the year. So I think the parking one would be great. Just did you know that this, you know, when you store soil in the spots, this is how it impacts people. So I think parking is an ongoing concern, not just accessible parking, but all parking. It's the number one thing we hear about. So I think just keeping in mind that any little thing we can do to help would be helpful.
And on the topic of parking, I want to give a shout out to a local business that just updated theirs. If you haven't been there yet, Butterfields has a beautiful example of accessible parking at their main entrance there on Keating Cross Road. Properly signed, over dimensioned. They got a huge access aisle. They've done an awesome job there. So really kudos to them.
And I think that might have been in response to a conversation. So I'm very, very pleased to hear that.
So, any other questions or comments on that one? I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda.
If I could add something, Chair, apologies. This is the last meeting, I believe, at Sydney. So thanks to Sydney, and Central Saanich is hosting next. So we are trying to make, you know, we're walking through our locations and trying to figure out how best to accommodate. There may be some of you that will reach out to. We don't want you to show up at the meeting and then go, oh, but I can't, or I need, or whatever. We really want to be as welcoming an atmosphere as you've had here and in North Saanich. So we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 months there at Municipal Hall. And yeah, if there's anything you can do, we're looking at the North Saanich and Sydney examples for agendas, as Rachel pointed out. So we look forward to being the next host for this group.
Okay, and who's going to be your contact person at Central Saanich?
It will be Narika, so she will reach out. We're just in the process of kind of handing over the reins from Sydney. So we will connect her with all of you. I will continue to be here. So, you know, obviously that you can reach out to myself as well. But you'll be hearing from us in the next few weeks as we roll out that transition.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the reminder. With that, I would like to extend my personal thanks to Anna in particular, who's been taking her minutes and keeping me on the straight and narrow. And Sandy and the town of Sydney for being the host for the last year. I think it's worked out well for us, and I look forward to coming home next month or 2 months. 2 months. I guess motion to adjourn. Bill, second. Lee, all in favor? No one's ever not in favor of that.